AITA for leaving a trip early because of my girlfriend's prank. I, 20M, had a girlfriend, 20F, of 8 months who recently went on what was supposed to be a week-long beach trip in Queensland with her friends and family. She had been planning this trip for a long time and was looking forward to it, especially since I'd get to know them all. On the third day we planned to go river floating. When we got there I was looking through my bag. Before I went to change and couldn't find my trunks. I instead found a new navy blue pair. When I told her this she replied with, "Oh yeah, that's the extra one I packed in case you lost yours." I thought this was thoughtful. I changed into the Mond. We all headed down towards the river. We all got into our tubes and started floating off. About 3 minutes in I feel my suit getting baggier, and I even notice a piece is falling off. I was disappointed that they were a cheap pair but I kept going. Once we hit rapids it got real though. I felt a sudden rush of cold water and I noticed my trunks have been torn clear off by the water. I stood up covering myself with just the last piece. Everyone else, about 15 of her friends and family, started to laugh. I was absolutely horrified. One of my biggest fears is being naked in public, and now I was completely nude with no way to get back. I can't tell you how trapped and humiliated I felt. I had to spend the rest of the day with the water up to my shoulders, feeling awkward and embarrassed the whole time. Whenever we were in shallow water I was forced to stand up and walk exposed in front of them. They weren't prudish either. Her friends and parents made jokes and comments on my body as we went. Her young cousins made sure to comment on the shape and size of my junk when I couldn't cover myself also. When we got back to the beach I had to run covering myself back to my towel. My day was completely ruined. I felt humiliated and angry. When we got back to our room, I was back into clothes trying to forget the day when my girlfriend comes in giggling to herself. She asked me if I liked the new swim trunks, and when I asked what she meant she told Mesh had ordered a prank dissolving pair in lounge and replaced my other one with it. I was absolutely livid. She had purposefully exposed and violated me because she thought it'd be a good laugh. She even made sure not to pack another pair or a towel. I started yelling and she told me to calm down, saying that it was only a joke. I left that night, and I didn't call her the next day. She called screaming at me, acting like I was one who had wronged her, saying that she had worked hard for this trip and that I was being immature. But I didn't want to be around someone who would humiliate me, especially considering that her own family and friends would be present. I can understand that I ruined the trip for her, but it feels like her own fault. AITA for refusing to honor my boyfriend's family's tradition? My boyfriend Eric, 29M, fake name, and I, 27F, have been dating for 3 years. For context, I have met his family and they are friendly. We don't meet them very often because they live in my BF's home country. I don't want to reveal country names either for privacy reasons, but my BF and I are of different nationalities and we both work in my country. The conflict happened during our last visit last weekend. We have been looking up houses to move in together and engagement rings. While we were having dinner, we mentioned this to his family as it's a big step in our relationship for us. We are not engaged yet. His parents and brothers expressed their happiness for us, then out of nowhere his youngest Sil asked, "So is she going to take the test?" I asked, "What test?" In summary, BF's family has this tradition where the future Mill tests future daughters-in-law to see if they are good enough for her sons. Apparently, his mother and aunts went through the same test. The tests include how clean they can keep a home, how well they can cook, their manners, etc. Basically life skills most people learn from childhood. I found it ridiculous because 1. If I'm good enough for my boyfriend, he should be the one deciding it. And 2. I don't fit in their targeted category. In his mom's words, you can't be a good Sahu and Sam if you can't be a good homemaker, and she wants to make sure of that. To be clear, his mom and all 3 of his brothers' wives are Sams, and although I respect their choice, I am not quitting my career and did not under any circumstances make my BF think I could compromise on that. I hate house chores and I would rather buy homemaking gadgets and hire staff no matter the cost than have to do chores myself. I told my BF's mom all this and it caused an argument that eventually ruined dinner and an extension our visit. BF doesn't care whether I'm a working wife or ASAHW, but he thinks I should have just done the test because it's just a test, and it's not like they would reject me if I failed it. He thinks it's a fun tradition that everyone was looking forward to and I should have gone along with it anyways. My boyfriend thinks I'm the and suggested I make this post. If I really am the AmItheAsshole, I'm sure you guys will let me know, so am I. Edit. Adding this as it's been coming up. I know disclosing the country may or may not bring up some unwanted arguments that will violate the rules here. But just for context, it's a family tradition, not a national culture. AITA for asking my daughter what college she decided on. So today, my 55M am returning with my daughter, 17F, from a final college visit. We flew. Yesterday, after the visit, we were having lunch and she said she'd made up her mind. I asked which school. She said she's going to have fun with this and not tell us. I texted my wife and said she had a decision but she wasn't telling us. My wife's comment was we've spent a great deal of money with trips, airline fare, hotels, meals, etc. for all of this. We visited multiple schools last spring and after she was accepted at 5, she narrowed them down to 3, which we've now visited. Today at the airport during the layover, she said she thinks it's fun. She got on our nerves about this and doesn't plan on telling us until maybe the end of the week. I explained that I don't think that's going to fly as I'm trying to plan on where I'm moving money around for the down payment, etc. We are repaying for her undergrad and maybe some grad school if not all of it. She says now I'm just guilting her and she doesn't appreciate it. I've explained I need to plan and that the longer she waits, the housing queue becomes an issue. Technically she has until May 1st, but the majority of students get in the queue as soon as possible to be considered fourth best housing. I get no response and now I'm getting the silent treatment. AITA for asking for this decision? I didn't threaten anything but I don't think she understands the ramifications of this decision. I just don't understand why I'm the bad guy all of a sudden. AITA for telling my father and his wife that it's too late to compromise and I don't want to engage in therapy with them? I'm 16F and I have 2 brothers 18 meters and 14 meters. We lost our mom when we were 3, 5 and 7 and our dadre married when we were 4, 6 and 8. It felt like they had known each other about a month when they got married but it's possible they were together longer. About a month after mom died, dad was in a widows and widowers group and that's how he met his wife, Beth. Beth lost her husband and had no kids. When they got married they sat us down and told us Beth was going to adopt us. My older brother and I objected. But we were ignored. Around that time we heard some extended family try to talk them out of it as well, saying we would be taken care of if anything happened to our father, no need to go through with the adoption. Beth told them she was our mother now and the adoption needed to happen. We spoke to a social worker and the judge before the adoption happened. Initially their request was rejected based on our conversations. But then they came up with a story that we'd have nobody else to take care of us and our family had already said they wouldn't raise us if anything happened to dad and it was done. Older brother and I never liked it, younger brother didn't really know any better but by age 7 was saying wished he wasn't adopted as well. He could have been copying us. But he says he really feels that way so. We have new birth certificates ever since the adoption and her name is in the place of mother. Found that out when I gave my mom's name in school one day and had to bring in my birth certificate. And saw Beth's name. My brothers had no idea thought that happened either. It iced off my older brother so much that he told Beth he hoped she would die and we could be adopted again since she was far more replaceable than mom. That incident made Beth and our father put him into therapy with them. That lasted for 2 years until he moved out last year. He then asked our maternal grandparents to adopt him since he couldn't find a way to reverse the adoption. Recently Beth and my father have figured out that I want to do the same and so does my younger brother. Beth broke down and said she just wanted the chance to be a mother and wanted us to love her back. My father suggested they do therapy with me and my brother, separate sessions with each of us, and that we try to work out a compromise. I told him it was too late for that. They already erased mom and nothing they could say would make me feel different about what they did. I told Beth we were never her children and she would need to accept the fact she was never going to be loved back. My father told me that wasn't true. We could still work something out, like have our grandparents adopt us but call him and Beth mom and dad and let them still be parents and grandparents in the future. When I said there was no room for compromise and it was too late, they said I was being so unfair. AITA. ETA. Just some points that have been brought up. Both times the adoption petition went to court. The first time was rejected because of what we said. Nothing was brought up then about nobody being willing to take us, so it was assumed we'd have family who could prevent us going into care. The second time dad made it seem like none of our family were willing to be there if he died and he was so afraid of that. We did no speaking the second time. No interview. It was just dad and Beth and their lawyer talking. They had the old notes from before. Was also asked to add that Beth always wanted to be mother. She could not have kids. Was okay with that. Then her husband died and she thought she was given a chance to have kids.